Hello. We are going to begin our study, part two. I began last Wednesday, actually, in the live setting at church. Um, we're looking at the Bible from 30,000 feet and really trying to get an idea of the overview of Scripture from Genesis to Revelation. And we came to Genesis chapter 6, and it is one of the strangest passages of Scripture in all of the Bible. And so we began looking at that up close, and I've called this study the Luciferian Endgame or the X Files, because this is just a strange passage. And we didn't get all the way through it. So I'm diving back into that study, part two, if you will. And if you didn't watch the first portion of this, I would encourage you to go back and watch it. It's the live version of it, but it'll make a whole lot more sense if you watch that study before going in and watching this one. But one of the things we were looking at in the Genesis 6 account, that's the story of Noah's flood and what was going on prior to the flood of Noah. And I revealed to you that there's a teaching that would share that when Lucifer discovered what the plan was to redeem mankind, and that was revealed in Genesis 3:15 when God cursed the serpent. He said that the seed of the woman would crush his head and the serpent's seed would bruise the Messiah's heel. And so it was a prophecy that the woman would bring forth the Messiah, which revealed to Lucifer that his destruction was going to come through humanity. And so he hatched a plan to corrupt the human seed. And he did that, according to Genesis 6, by sending fallen angels to this earth to sleep with human women. And as a result of that, they gave birth to the Nephilim, which means fallen ones. Some versions refer to them as giants, and we read stories of giants in the Bible, such as Goliath, who is 9 feet tall, according to the scriptures. But these beings were part human, part angel, and the whole purpose of it was to defile humanity so that the Messiah would not have a human family or host through which to be born so that he could redeem the human race. And so that was his plan, and that plan was hatched in Genesis, but a form of that plan goes all the way through to the end of the Bible. For example, when it became known that the family through which the Messiah was going to be born, instead of trying to defile the human race through this Nephilim strategy, he moved Pharaoh to throw the baby boys, the Israeli boys, into the Hebrew boys into the Nile River. And then when Jesus was born in Bethlehem, he moved Herod to have the baby boys killed. And so, and when later on he tried it again through Hitler to exterminate the Jewish people, and he's constantly trying to eliminate the Jewish people because the coming of the Messiah the first time would be through the Jewish people, and the coming of the Messiah the second time is also going to be by means of the Jewish people. And so as part of the Luciferian end game to try and eliminate humanity for redemption, and ultimately to eliminate the Jewish people so that Christ can't come back the second time. And so we started looking at that plan. And again, this is a weird passage of scripture. And I went into that in detail, building a case for this idea that fallen angels did indeed try to cohabit with human women to give birth to these monstrosities that were part human and part angel, and all of that. The Nephilim invasion. Well, Jesus predicted that the time of his second coming would be just like the days of Noah. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 37, it says, "When the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's day. In those days, before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered his boat. People didn't realize what was going to happen until the flood came and swept them away. That is the way it will be when the Son of Man comes." Now, this verse has been interpreted to mean that at the time of the coming of Jesus, the second coming of Jesus, people will be marrying and burying and having parties and just living life as normal, and it'll take them quickly. And that indeed is a proper interpretation of that passage, that life's just going to go on as usual and people will be caught unprepared and unaware for the second coming of Christ. But it could be that there's more going on here than just that. Like the fallen angels that came down on Mount Hermon to corrupt the human bloodline in the days of Noah, I believe that at the end of the age, they will try to do that again. Only I believe they're going to do it in a different way. I don't think they're going to try to have sex with women like they did in Genesis chapter 6, but I think they're going to attempt this Nephilim incursion into humanity in a different way. And I would suggest that the means by which they are going to do that is through the UFO phenomenon. Now that sounds a little weird, and don't turn me off and close this off thinking, oh gosh, he believes in aliens. I don't actually, but I think that the alien doctrine or the alien message is going to play a part in that, and I want to show you that as we go through this. So two questions we're going to answer tonight. One of those is, are UFOs real? Well, you understand a UFO simply means an unidentified flying object, and that could be a weather balloon, an airplane, natural phenomenon, camera glare, things such as that. And so in that sense, yeah, UFOs are indeed real, but of course the question we're really asking is there such a thing as alien spacecraft? One of the things that I think people agree on is that there are a lot of people who are seeing things in the sky that they have no explanations for. Back in March 1997, Phoenix, Arizona was visited by a series of lights that passed over Phoenix, and thousands of people saw them. And I bring this particular example up because my sister was there at the time and she saw it. She was hiking on Saddleback Mountain in the Phoenix area with her husband, and they looked up in the sky and they saw this array of lights that was going across the sky, and it silently and slowly moved from horizon to horizon all the way across, and they watched the whole thing. And so from her testimony, talking to her, it happened. Whatever it was there, and they saw it, as well as thousands of other people seeing it. And there were all kinds of explanations and speculations about what it was. And of course, the conspiracy theorists all said that it was extraterrestrial life or some kind of a UFO giant craft, and the government denied that and so on. Well, 11% of Americans, which would be 15 plus million people, believe that they have seen some kind of a UFO. And this includes military personnel, engineers, air traffic controllers, police, people from all walks of life. And it's true that there are a number of hoaxes that are out there. Sometimes what people see are perhaps military in nature. But the fact remains that there are credible people who are witnessing events that, and some of them, cannot be explained. And these are politicians, scientists, astronauts, everyday people who are seeing something that can't be explained. And there are many in our culture today that would say for us to believe that we're the only ones in the universe and there is no other intelligent life out there is actually arrogant. USA Today said that 61% of Americans say they believe humans are not the only life form in the galaxy. And astronaut Gordon Cooper said, I believe that these extraterrestrial vehicles and their crews are visiting this planet from other planets and are obviously more advanced than we are here on Earth. Also, I did have occasion in 1951 to have 2 days of observation of many flights of them, meaning UFOs of different sizes, flying in higher formation, generally from east to west over Europe. President Jimmy Carter once said, I don't laugh at people anymore when they say they've seen UFOs. I've seen one myself. And Gerald Ford said, in the firm belief that the American public deserves a better explanation than that thus far given by the Air Force, I strongly recommend that there be a committee investigation of the UFO phenomena. I think we owe it to the people to establish credibility regarding UFOs and to produce the greatest possible enlightenment of the subject. So there are people that take this thing seriously. In 1997, Carl Sagan was instrumental in the launching of the Voyager spacecraft, which transported a gold-coated phonograph with recorded messages of music and sounds of Earth in the hope of somehow communicating our existence with perhaps other beings that are out there. And it wasn't that long ago that people would have thought you were crazy to talk about such things. But today, this phenomena is widely discussed everywhere except in the church. For whatever reason, in the church, it's taboo and we don't really go there. But I think we need to talk about this phenomena because our culture is talking about it, and I think it's going to play a significant role in the end times and is going to have a connection to this whole Nephilim phenomena that we've been studying in Genesis chapter 6. And I want to show you why I say that. Now, is there life out there in the galaxy somewhere? It was Dr. Frank Drake who put together what is called the Drake equation to try to discern the probability of intelligent life existing out there in the cosmos beyond our galaxy. And this is the equation: N equals R star times FP times NE times FE times FI times FC times L. Now here's what that means. N is the number of civilizations in our galaxy which communication might be possible. R starred is the average rate of star formation per year in our galaxy. FP is the fraction of those stars that have planets. NE is the average number of planets that can potentially support life per star that has planets. FE is the fraction of the above that actually go on to develop life at some point. By the way, this is if you believe in evolution, which I don't. FI is the fraction of the above that actually go on to develop intelligent life. FC is the fraction of civilizations that develop a technology that releases detectable signs of their existence into space. And L is the length of time for which such civilizations release detectable signals into space. Now, back in 1961, when the equation was formulated, they calculated that N was at about 10,000 planets, but newer models have been added, and so today the current estimate is 75 million. So they say that's 75 million inhabited planets in our galaxy. And when you look at the universe, there are 10 million trillion planets that they say could potentially carry life. So people say that, surely with all of those potentially inhabitable planets, there must be at least one other civilization, if not millions. Of course, all of this is based on the idea that there is evolution and life is going to evolve and that type of thing, which I don't believe in evolution, but these folks would. The world's most famous scientist, Stephen Hawking, has even stated that he believed that aliens probably existed. Richard Dawkins, world famous atheist, said he has no problem with aliens theoretically seeding life on Earth, provided that somewhere down the chain of creators there's a life form that arose via, again, evolution. All of this is based on their idea of evolution. The co-discoverer of the DNA molecule, Sir Francis Crick, so this is a brilliant man, proposed that life came via panspermia. In other words, life was seeded by aliens as the possible explanation for the mind-boggling complexity that's coded in the information of DNA. And so there are all kinds of people who have thought there has to be life out there. But the problem with some of these ideas that there is intelligent life out there in the universe and that it has somehow come to visit us is that our universe is really too big to travel across vast distances. I mean, the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second, which means it would take 100,000 years to reach the edge of our galaxy alone. And then you would need a craft that's large enough to contain the resources and food to sustain a group that far. Well, our planet, since the time of Adam, has been generating life forms on it, and we have grown over this last 6 to 10,000 years from 2 people to 7 billion people. But if you were to extend that for 100,000 years, there would be so many people. I mean, we need a whole planet to sustain us. What kind of a spaceship would be needed to sustain a group that would travel for that distance and that length of time? But theologically, I think it's not even possible for there to be intelligent life out there, extraterrestrial life, if you will, out there in the universe. And I say that because of a verse like Romans chapter 8, verse 22 that says, "For we know that the whole creation groans and suffers the pains of childbirth together until now." That's talking about the fall of man and saying that when man fell into sin, the whole creation, not just the earth, but the whole universe, all of creation, was subject to the fall and was marred by the fall. And the whole creation is groaning for its redemption. This passage goes on to talk about that someday God is going to recreate a new heaven and a new earth, and it's all going to be set right again. He's going to redeem the universe, but it started because of the redemption of humanity. Well, the redemption of humanity could only happen because Jesus Christ became human and identified with us as humans. And when he rose from the dead, he rose from the grave as a human. He's fully God, fully human. He's the God man. And when he rose from the grave, he rose as the glorified God man and will remain forever a glorified God man on the throne of God. Well, if there was another species out there in the universe somewhere that was subject to the fall, they would need to be redeemed, but there would be no opportunity for that to happen because Christ can't go and become an alien and die for them because he remains forever the God-man. So there is no redemption for them. So theologically, it really doesn't make sense to say there are other beings out there, terrestrial beings in the universe. Now, are there other beings out in the universe? I believe they are. I just don't think that they are ETs, all right? I think instead they are what I would call IDBs, interdimensional beings. And so, in other words, there are angels and there are demons and there are seraphim and cherubim and archangels. And so there are beings besides humans that are in a different dimensionality than we are. But to look to another planet and think there's an intelligent life form, at least I don't believe that that is the case. Now, someone may ask the question, if ETs appear someday, land a craft on the White House lawn, is that going to mess up your theology? And I think that's the wrong question, because I think the question should be when ETs appear and land on the White House. Will that mess up your theology? Because they will someday appear, I believe. But they're not going to mess up my theology because I don't believe that they are extraterrestrial intelligence. I believe that they are interdimensional beings. In other words, I think they are fallen angels or demons masquerading as ETs that are visiting from another planet. I think it's interesting when you examine the messages that come through these beings. And here's what I mean by that. There are New Age channelers who believe that they are channeling the message of aliens. I think they're just demon possessed and being demonized, and they're voicing the message of false spirits. But they believe they're voicing the message of ETs. And I find it fascinating the kinds of messages these beings are channeling, because they're not channeling messages about how to increase in our scientific knowledge and improve our earth. It's nothing like that. It's all theological. Like everything that they're presenting, so much of it is about the evacuation of earth by Christians. It's about Jesus and the Gospels and the message of the Bible, and they're attacking it. And I'm thinking, man, if there are aliens out there living on some other planet somewhere, why, if Jesus wasn't real and there were aliens, why would they care about this story of Jesus? And in fact, they don't spend their time talking against Allah or Vishnu or any other of the false gods that are out there. They only center on Jesus, which I find interesting. Let me just read you some of their messages. This first one is from Ashtar, who's supposed to be the leader of some alien confederation who's channeling his message through this person. This is what this person says. The Great Evacuation, and this alien, so to speak, talks a lot about this, but it says the Great Evacuation will come upon the world very suddenly. The flash of emergency events will be as a lightning that flashes in the sky so suddenly and so quickly in its happening that it is over almost before we are aware of its presence. There is much happening on your planet at this time. The mother is cleansing. It is all she knows to do at this time to clear herself of the pollution that exists within her body. But you, as light bearers, can help your mother cleanse in such a way that does not destroy life life on all this planet. And then it goes on to say, do not feel sad about their leaving. They are going home. Many are waiting to be with them again. Many beings must move on, for their thought patterns are of the past. They hold on to these thoughts that keep Earth held back. The people who leave the planet during the time of Earth changes do not fit in here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of Earth. When the time comes that perhaps 20 million people leave the planet at one time, there will be a tremendous shift in consciousness for those who are remaining. And so it goes on to talk about the fact that these people are from the past, they're holding Earth back, that Earth is somehow an entity or a being, and that suddenly there's going to be many, many people that just disappear from the planet. And you know, it's interesting. If the Bible teaches about Jesus Christ coming back and rapturing his church and catching them away, how is the world going to explain that when suddenly all of these people disappear to go to be with the Lord? These alien statements sound crazy, but maybe they'll make just a little more sense to people on the planet if suddenly the church is gone and vacated. And so it's almost as if they're preparing people for a great lie, anticipating the day is going to come when we are going to be taken away. And so they do that. Now, there's other messages that they have, which we're going to go into. All of this is important because these messages that they're bringing and all of these things that people are seeing in the sky are setting people up for a lie. And this lie is going to tie into the plan that Satan had way at the beginning with the Nephilim to try to corrupt the human seed, which I will get into, but I'm going to pause now, and we're going to break this study up into two sections. So we're going to pause, and then we'll continue with section number 2. So I hope you'll come back and join us again.